Let's move into Jesse's section. Jesse, take us on a journey of debate.
I guess this is a debate. Are we actually debating?
I don't know.
We'll debate
Just,
if we feel like debating.
The debate just means discussion.
I'll bring the debate.
Okay. All right. This is about what's good for the game. You could also say what's good for the game versus the individual. I got interested in this. There's been a lot of discussion recently, philosophical discussion about gaming etiquette. For instance, your guys' talk on kingmaking.
Right. We talked about kingmaking. We've talked about sniveling. A lot of game etiquette has been brought up. Two sides of the spectrum, sniveling and kingmaking.
Sorry about the sniveling, guys.
Sorry about the snivel.
I'm not sure we're using that term right either, but
Which one?
That's a different discussion. Sniveling. I don't know if that's... whatever. So kingmaking. So Paul intellectualizing, justifying, why it's okay to kingmake, is going to help my metagame. Should I help a weaker player beat a better player? And will it be funny to watch another player squirm?
Is this what Paul? I'm not sure.
No,
this
I
is
think
what
that's
Paul
an abstraction of what he said, but okay.
All right.
Slightly, maybe. But I think for all of these questions, you just have to stop and ask yourself, is it good for the game?
Okay.
Right? So I think in that podcast, you're saying, okay, let's say you're about to lose a game and your best move, king makes, giving the win to someone else. Whatever you do is broken, is what you're saying.
I think I was saying if you are out of the running,
right,
and your next move happens to be best for you, but also just decides who wins because it opens up a space for somebody else or whatever it is, I don't think that's broken. I think the discussion was, what do you do in that situation? Do you always play your best game?
The answer is yes, because that's better
sort of
for the game.
That's sort of what we came to.
Okay. Well, okay.
I mean, that's where I ended. I was like, I think it's well, what I said was, it's always defensible. If you're always doing what's best for you.
That Paul characterized my position.
Which I agree.
You can always defend it.
Making
you can always make a solid,
you personally the most
solid court case. Yeah.
Right.
Whether it's the correct thing to do in terms of ethics was what we were debating.
So yeah, I guess for me, it's like if you're step into the narrative of the game. If you're ever in the situation you're about to lose, you got to think, what would your character that you're playing do?
Okay.
They would still try to win.
LARP it. You got to LARP it.
Even if they know they're going to lose, they're going to try and make more money or something. They're not all of a sudden going to deviate from that and then take somebody out of the game or out of life,
Right. So in the narrative of the game, they may not, if we're playing, we're trading in the Mediterranean, and you might not know that somebody's trading better than you off in Greece, and you're here in Italy, and so you've got to trade your best, even if, in the thematic LARPing of the game.
Or think about it like this. If you had to design an AI, like if you're designing a multiplayer strategy game, and all of a sudden your AI is losing, would you program it to go after the player who's still but not like play their best game anymore? There's multiple AIs, and all of a sudden he just stops playing and just wants to attack you? You wouldn't do that. It wouldn't be a better playing experience.
Right.
So I think that when you go out, if you're going to lose, then you should simulate.
So just is what you're saying is that Paul is wrong? Is that the position you're taking here?
Well, he brought up lots of different points. And some of them I completely disagree with. I don't think it's good for the game.
Uh-huh.
And some of them, look, would I ever king make? I say if there's a tournament situation, absolutely. Because I'm going to lose this game.
Well, you're playing beyond the single game.
Because there's a meta game. There's an actual meta game.
There's a bigger game, right.
And it is honorable, and within it is still good for the game to do something where I'm going to lose this game, or I may actually help this other person win or make this person lose. And I've done this. I've done this in a Catan tournament.
Sure.
Because I needed to this person to end the game. I will not win now,
right.
But I'll get second, and I'll get enough points.
Yeah.
And I think that is totally legit.
Well, yeah, because you're trying to...
The real game
win.
is the tournament.
Yeah, the game is the tournament.
So totally. A kingmaker or the opposite of kingmaking there.
What if you were
Paul
out...
would say sometimes also, like, I think we've all been in situations where you find yourself in a place where you are going to kingmake and you have no choice. Like, it's not like I'm choosing to kingmake. It's like whatever you do is like, Lady or the Tiger here or something. You got to choose one, and it's going to hurt somebody. So what do you do in that case?
Okay. Well, let me let me jump on that one. So we were playing the Estates, okay, and it was most of our first games, and I took no corporations, and I was tucking money, and it came down to Tom deciding, he was in that position where is he going to give me the win or is he going to give it to somebody else? And what did he choose? He chose me. Why do I think that was the right decision? Not because it was me, because of what he said. He's going to get more points from doing that, even though he knows he's going to lose either way. This is what, I think you have to think like, if this was a tournament, this is what I would do.
It's more defensible, sure, but it's not a black and white ethics issue because it's defensible. You can always say I'm playing my best game, but I think there's an interesting conversation to be had as well, which is what we had on Paul's episode, which is, well, there's some gray areas there. Like, there is the group, there is the play experience of the whole group. There is somebody who the win will mean more to. There is somebody who has more invested. There's also
you lost me there.
You may have lost me.
There's rewarding good play. I think this person's played better.
If it's completely neutral, fine. But
let's say we're in a Catan tournament, Jesse. Okay, and you're out. Okay, doesn't matter what you do. You're out. You're not going to win. This is your last game.
Yep.
But I can win. Okay.
Do I help my friend?
Yeah.
Ew.
I
Ew.
mean,
No.
it's tough.
No, I don't.
I don't know if I would ever admit this publicly, so I won't even say. But ethically,
It's not wrong. You're not breaking a rule.
You're colluding.
Yeah, you're out.
You're colluding.
And well, okay, you're not.
It bothers me.
Okay.
And look, I used to play Catan.
It happens.
Well, what if
Oh, they
what if
totally
you have two possible actions left? One helps player A. One helps player B. I'm player B. There's no difference.
If there's no difference, then I have a vested interest in my friend.
There you go.
I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, there you go.
But I think what you're saying is your starting point should just be like play your best game. You've got to have a really good reason to deviate from that.
Yeah, it's not making a selfish move. It's not just, and I'm going to do something good for him. But then you got to think about everybody at the table. And if you were in any one of those other seats, what would you prefer to happen? What is the more honorable thing to do? What is going to be better for the game in general, for everybody, for the good of the game?
Yep.
I'm going to bring up a point here.
Do it.
We played Dungeons and Dragons together for a while. We had a long Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and it was a very enjoyable experience. One of the hardest parts for me DMing was that I often felt that you were not doing what was best for the group in those situations, that you were often LARPing your character and LARPing your character correctly, but those decisions were often less enjoyable for the group. So discuss that.
You're absolutely right. You basically just said the whole thing. In that moment, I don't think I was appreciating the dynamic of you want to move the party in a certain direction or something.
I have a basic story that I'm hoping to tell, and it's not railroaded, but there's a slight path.
And I wasn't trying to do that too much, or I didn't think. I know that you seem like you encouraged. Different people can go over here. You're going to go to a dungeon. Some people can go this way. Some people can go that way, and we did.
Yeah.
But I was also playing my character, and I tried to make those decisions, but I think I did that too much. I don't think it went crazy too far.
No, it didn't.
But enough where I go, it's not good for the game.
Well, because I had to go, all right, meanwhile, over here in Jesse, then people are just
It wasn't just me. Other people spit off and did things all the time.
Sure.
But yes, there was definitely times when I was like, my character would go do this, and I think I favored that too much, and that ultimately was not good for the game.
So, and do you think there are different rules in D&D then? Because in D&D, it's really about LARPing your character, but you as the player of that character has to have their eye on the overall experience as well, right?
Yeah, you got to find that balance.
Which is, but you're saying that does not apply in board games necessarily. You always have to play what your person would do best, not necessarily keeping an eye on the overall experience in terms of how you play.
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think
these are different realms. I feel like in Jesse's defense, like these are different things. Let me bring up an example that I think kind of goes to what we were just talking about before then we can circle back to D&D if you want to.
No. It was just I think the difference is
so one thing that was kind of controversial in the Game of Thrones world. It was
the card game.
The card game, the LCG is okay. So it's very common for groups to get together and deck build together.
Yeah,
and they're gonna work together to put together some strong decks for a tournament. And maybe everybody's even going to play the same deck, or sometimes they're going to say like, here are our two decks. We're going to come in and we're a group, and they maybe even have a name.
Yeah.
And so you'll get into a tournament with these people, and I said these people like these are bad people, but like they're playing a different game, which is they're playing the team game of pushing as many people through to the cut in the end. And so it would be very common for like I'm on the verge of making the cut, but what I really need is I need Matt to lose to Jesse in this, in the 7th round before we get to the cut. And the problem is that Matt and Jesse are actually on the same team, and Jesse, quote unquote, scoops to Matt.
Right.
Game starts.
Scoops means you just say, I forfeit.
Pick up your deck.
Right.
You scoop, you forfeit. Matt gets the win, and
That's collusion.
But it's also like, but that's kind of like what I realized is like, oh, this is a different game. We're not in an individual tournament here. But it's more like we're in the Tour de France. And you have a team here in which you have a group of people that is focused on getting certain riders through. And other people will lay down in order to put like their best. No, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I remember having that moment of like, oh, I'm not really. If I'm going into this game as an individual, I'm not really playing it. Like I gotta team up. I gotta ally up, because otherwise I'm just gonna be, brute forced out of the tournament.
Well, it sounds like they sort of solved whatever issue arose from that with team-based version of Thrones, right? Which is
with the war format. Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of like
it's a different thing,
but that sort of makes that the game.
That's also how they address the problems inherent in the asymmetry between the houses.
Right.
There's definitely problems between the houses, but the war format is kind of allows you to address that so that you're playing all 8 houses, and there's just mechanisms for kind of balancing it out.
Yeah. I think it's a great example. I think that. It's a tournament structure. It's the exception where I think that it is okay. I think that it is okay.
But I remember thinking this is bad for the game. And it is bad for the game in the sense that if you are a newer player and you're coming into that community, you just got punched in the face.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I never really had a chance because we've got a bunch of teams here that are working together and they're kind of colluding.
But that is the game.
But that may be the game.
And so then that's the individual who's not playing the game right. They think they're playing the game.
It was a hard lesson.
Right.
Like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I got to get on the inside with somebody, or else I'm wasting my time. And I just think, I think that would push. There's a lot of things in actually the Game of Thrones LCG that are not new player friendly.
Right. Right. But I would
great community, but it's a tough break in.
Yeah.
Into that community.
I would argue if you just tried to play the individual game in that format, you're breaking the game. It's not good for the game. To just go, you know what, I shouldn't.
Like, that's the majority of the players
playing the individuals.
Playing as individuals, absolutely.
Right.
You're going to Gen Con. I'm signing up for the Game of Thrones LCG tournament. I'm fully expecting Buzz Andreas Aldrin to weigh in here about how I got this wrong, but we'll hear if anybody's actually listening to this from the Game of Thrones.
I don't know. I'll have to. I have to think about that, but it's interesting. It's interesting. And by the way, I would also say that helping a new player win, maybe this is an opportunity where if it's literally is a learning game, and it's like I might help a new player beat Tom or something.
Right. That's hard to pass up.
It's more important for this new player to feel
have a positive experience,
and understand how to win, than stroking Tom's ego again. Like, I think that that's actually better for the game.
Yeah, this is called let the Wookiee win.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an exception.
Sure.
Yeah. So another topic, announcing moves. Talking about Tom, we were playing. You weren't there. It was me and him and Ben at Strategicon, and Tom is a very good player, and he often doesn't like to call attention to his moves. He doesn't want you to see what he's working on. And I was pointing out one time, I was like, "Well, you're being a little sneaky with your moves," because he was not announcing his moves. He was. And so
what do you mean? Like actually going, I'm placing my worker here, and you're not saying what he's doing?
He was literally just looking at the map, and then, at some point he did something, and then he would sit there, and then Ben didn't know it was his turn.
He was almost hoping that nobody would notice what he was doing, is what you're saying.
He wasn't being really sneaky, overtly sneaky, but he just wasn't really calling attention to what he was doing. And I kind of pointed out, I was like, you're being awfully sneaky there, And he goes, I'll tell you what, Jess. He goes, you're welcome to ask whatever I did, and I'll tell you. And then he proceeded to be very specific about minuscule things that he was doing. I'm placing my piece here. It's within the circle, and this is going to activate this. And he started doing that. Okay. So then I go, all right, but what is better for the game? right? I understand you don't want to call attention to your moves, and that's better for you. But think about like if everybody did that, what are we sacrificing here? If you announce your moves, you're moving the game forward. Clearly, people know your turn is over, right?
Yeah.
You are there's accountability. So you're saying, I'm going to do this and such. I'm going to get these resources. And somebody goes, oh, you actually don't get those resources. You get these many resources.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
Right. We are always kind of double checking each other.
We should.
We have to be.
It's accountability.
Especially with Albert gone.
Yeah.
Right.
The rules lawyer is gone, so somebody's got to do it.
And I think it also adds to the narrative of the game. There's a story. There's a push-pull happening. There's like, if you appreciate this barrage, there's a story here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk about it and you say, oh, I'm doing this. This is what happened in the movie. By not announcing it, and you may not be able to pinpoint how that changes the things, but when you do describe what you're doing, I think it really paints a picture of what's happening, and it adds to the excitement, in my opinion.
Right.
See, I thought where you were going with this is like, did Tom have any problem with you kind of going, so Ben, did you see what he did there? He just built a dam right in front of your dam. So you see how that's...
Was it? Yeah, he didn't like you pointing out the strategy that Ben, if he had known the game better, could have adapted to?
Oh, it wasn't that. In this moment, I was literally just saying, I think it'd be better if you announced your moves so we could... And then it made
announce your moves or announce when your turn is done? My turn. I really have a pet
both.
peeve about people not announcing when their turn is done. That's definitely a thing for me.
Yeah, I think it's both. It's like, hey, okay, so I'm going to do this, and bum. All right, and then now we know your turn is over because you've done that and you've got your resources. Okay, you're good? Okay, boom, onward.
Overthrowing people under the bus. Paul, you need to call out your moves more when you're done with your turn. That's my only critique of Paul Satachit.
Yeah.
Is that I often turn to him and go, can you please let me know when you're done?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to with Tom. At one point, because it was Ben's, I don't know, maybe Ben had played it before, but Tom at one point decided to go, hey, Ben, if I were to do this, and Ben's a really sweet guy. This is not Ben Hoyt. Ben Hoyt's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
But Ben Malakar is a guy who sort of introduced to the group very recently, very pertinent to this conversation, actually. And he doesn't want to disrupt, the group. And so Tom's like, hey, if I were to place my pieces here, what are you planning? Are you planning to do such and such here? And Ben's like, oh, no. He didn't even think about it. He was like, no, I was. And before he said anything, I said, Ben, don't answer this question. Tom, make your move. And he's like, oh, no. And Ben's like, no, he's just looking at the board. He's like, no, I don't think so. And I'm laughing.
And then Tom's gonna hold.
And
him
then
to
Tom
it.
does it. And then so he's got two workers left. And I go, Ben, hold on here, Ben. You realize,
Benny.
like, because Tom is not speaking up the entire game, and all of a sudden he asked this random question. I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. Ben, do you realize what this is? And I explained it to him, and he was like,
He dug his own grave.
Well, and he's trying to justify why he should do it anyway because he's honoring this, and it's like nothing's happened. You don't have to do that. Like, you don't have to honor that, and Tom, you can take your move back. But and Ben went back and forth. Literally, he goes, "No, I have to do it. I'm sorry, Tom. I have to do it." And
Sounds
then he
like
goes,
a horrible
Good for him.
experience
Good
for
for
Ben.
him.
and then he goes, "Sorry, Jess, I can't. I can't. I gotta." He actually went back and forth.
no.
And then he ultimately did. I think he did do it. And then Tom later wanted to call a backsies on it. It was, oh my gosh. Anyway, so there was that.
We're
But,
awful people.
Yeah.
announcing moves. So I will say, like my friend Ben Malakar, I said, "Hey guys, I want to bring a buddy of mine. I don't offer this very often.
You've never.
No, I did. I brought
did?
like Jesse.
Oh yeah, you're right. I
Newman.
like Jesse. Jesse's great.
Yeah. But I feel like Ben really brings this, like, I feel like he is really good for the game. And I think about, like, well, why? Like, well, he's competitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a good player, right? So he challenges us, and it's fun. But he's a graceful winner and loser.
Mm-hmm.
All right? He listens when the host is explaining the rules. He's engaged. He's actively listening. He's asking questions to further his understanding, but not too many questions to divert the flow of the lesson.
Yep.
He announces his moves. He's very particular about that. He keeps the game honest. He's our rules lawyer, even if it doesn't benefit him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why he doesn't fit in our group. No,
There's no more rules lawyer.
He did a very good teach of Barrage, or the expansion at least when we
Right.
played. So
Yeah.
Good.
No, he's
good-
a great guy.
Good guy.
And definitely going to
Don't know
replace you
why
at some
he
point.
has anything to do with you.
Yeah.
He can joke, but he never needs to be the center of attention.
There's more? Are you still going?
Yeah, okay, I'm
Did
just
you
telling
write
you.
a poem?
I did.
You're just you see him as an ideal player.
I'm just saying it's a good. I'm glad that this happened all this time because I feel like he is. Yeah, I think.
So just to recap: Paul bad, Tom bad, Ben good.
Ben good.
Wow. Did I get it right?
No debate.
Okay.
The debate is over.
I think you've done a nice job of wrapping up our ethics conversation as a whole in this debate. I think we've brought up a lot of ethics issues, and I think you've yes, I agree that Ben is a near ideal type of personality to have in the board gaming community, in terms of how, or in the board game night. I mean, in terms of how he approaches a game, and yeah, absolutely. I think Alfred was like that a lot too.
I think he probably was the most of our group.
True good, lawful good.
Yeah.
He was the best of us.
Rest in peace. Does that wrap it up for you, Jess?
Sure.
That was great, man. I really appreciated that.